Hello. It is one of those spring days here where it is rainy and gray. And I always try to remind myself on these days because I miss the sun. I love the sun. I always try to remind myself this is what makes the flowers. This is what makes it lush and green. Um, anyway, so I hope that you are, wherever you are, enjoying the weather, the good and the bad of it. Today, I want to bring you a bit of an anti-perfectionist episode, or anti-perfection episode, I should say. So today, I want to talk about 4 places where doing something imperfectly, even badly, beats perfection. Now, I don't know if you know this about me. I have most definitely struggled with perfectionism for all of my life. I've definitely always been very like achievement oriented, and the world is there to reward that. You know, when you're a kid in high school, like getting on the honor roll and winning scholastic awards and things like that, like the world is there to be like, good job, go you, right? So it's really easy to sort of like let that get into your bones. And I find that as as a woman with a family and, running a business, perfectionism does not serve at all, at all. Um, and what I see with my clients and people when I am doing their taxes is that there's a lot of places where the same kind of perfectionism that most definitely I have suffered from traditionally, um, where it really holds people back. It actually prevents progress. So I always like to say, um, aim for improvement, not perfection. Perfection is an impossible standard. You will never meet it. But improvement is always possible. And in fact, it's the path to learning, right? Um, the first time you do something, it's always going to be a little rough, right? And the more you practice something, the more refined it becomes and the more excellent you become at it. That is the nature of human learning, right? And we don't need to be telling ourselves a story about that. I think it's really easy to look around and just see the finished product everywhere and assume that everything starts that way. And we forget the origin of things, that everything starts from a place of imperfection. As my grandfather used to say, anything worth doing is worth doing badly. And I really agree with that. So let's jump into it. 4 places where doing something imperfectly and even badly beats perfection. Number 1, putting money into an IRA. All right. Now, it doesn't have to just be an IRA. This could be any kind of investment, tax advantaged retirement account. So could also be a 401k, solo 401k, or a SEP IRA. But most people listening to this have access to a traditional or Roth IRA. And then, of course, if you're self-employed, you also have access to a SEP IRA and possibly, it's a little more complicated, but possibly a solo 401k. When you put money into one of these retirement accounts, like an IRA, what I see a lot of times happen is people say, oh, I don't have the max. I don't have the $6,500 that I need this tax season, so I won't put anything in. Well, let me just point out to you that putting $3,000 into a tax advantage retirement account is better than putting in 0, right? So this is a place where, if you can't make it perfect, make it something, right? Do something. I do think it's a good aim for everybody listening to max out at least an IRA every single year. That is a financial habit that builds you wealth. And the more you take it like the gospel, the more it will serve you in giving you long-term financial stability. And last week's episode was all about that. So by all means, go back and listen to that. But if you've got $1,000 that you can put in 1,000, right? Because a little bit invested in your retirement is better than nothing. Okay. Every time, every single time. All right. Number 2, putting money into investments. This is a little bit a corollary, but not necessarily, because you can have investments that are not inside tax advantage vehicles like an IRA. So one of the components of long-term financial security is you actually need your money to be invested, right? To grow wealth, you actually need to be invested. I know investing feels really scary, especially if you are socialized female and you have been bullied by a financial advisor. There was a New York Times article a couple years ago that showed how pervasive bullying is towards women by their own financial advisors. And I know this is true because I talk to women all the time who are being bullied by their financial advisor. So I know it's there. I know it's true. But also, I want you to take hope. Fidelity, which is a brokerage company, they did a massive survey of their customers. This is millions of people, and they found that women make better investors than men. It's really fascinating research, but I think it makes a lot of sense because if you feel cautious and risk averse, that's actually a good thing. It's good to be an inactive investor. It's good to have a healthy sense of respect for the risks involved. Investing does involve risk. That's real. And so you want to have a healthy attitude towards that. A little bit of fear is okay, is actually healthy when it comes to investing, but it doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. Okay. All right. So what I really advise when it comes to investing, P.S., this is not investing advice, but what I really counsel you is get educated about it. Investing is not rocket science. It's a little bit of input. You do have to learn the basics. You certainly need to learn about risk and how to manage your risk. You also need to learn about fees, and that includes paying an advisor because, oh my God, buying actively managed funds or paying a percentage of assets under management to an advisor can really eat away the effectiveness of your investments. And so knowing how to do it yourself is the most cost-effective thing you could possibly do with your money. It's something I teach inside my program, and I'm really proud of it because I don't make any money off of anybody's investments. I just teach how to know what it costs, how to know what your financial advisor is charging you, how to do the most basic, most time-tested, most trend-proof investment strategy that works in a high market and in a low market, right? That's kind of what you want when it comes to investing. But regardless of how you learn, I just want you to understand that the fear is real. It's really scary to start your investing for the first time, to move money into an investment account, buy into your first index fund. It's really scary the first time you do it. So I want to hold some emotional space around that and say, that's real. It's really true, and that you might feel that way. And it's okay. And even if you do it imperfectly the first time, you can rinse and repeat, and you should, and do it a little bit better the next time, right? Take a nice, healthy stab towards your first investment, and then make a second one and tune it up a little bit more the second time you do it, right? If the first time you made an investment, you didn't allocate quite the way that you wish you had, or maybe you didn't check the expense ratio as well as you should have, the next time I want you to do that, right? So this is a thing that you can improve over time. I have been a lot more actively putting money into investments in the last 2 years. And I tell you, I often find things I missed, right, in previous investments. Still, overall, the trajectory of them is up, right? I'm still gaining financial security by having them there. And what I do is I just make a practice of, I will do it better this time than I did it last time, right? And what that means is over time, you get better and better and better and better. That's how you learn. That's the human learning process, okay? Number 3, estimated quarterly tax. Estimated quarterly tax, and I've had whole episodes on this. It's a place where the word estimate really carries a lot of weight, right? You have to prepay your taxes throughout the year by law when you're self-employed, because you're not allowed to accumulate a full annual tax bill, mostly because that's not good for you. It's so disruptive and destabilizing when you get a bill that's larger than you can afford to pay. And for that reason, there's a law that says we don't want you to be in that situation at all. You must, if you don't have payroll withholding because you're not an employee, you're self-employed, you're going to have to, for one thing, do your own bookkeeping because we allow you deductions, which we don't allow employees. So you have to do some bookkeeping to even know what's taxable, right? Because you get to take out, you get the privilege of taking expenses out of your gross income. So you have to calculate what your profit is. That's the taxable number. And you have to prepay just at a minimal level 4 times per year the tax that you owe up to date, so that you don't have a massive tax bill on April 15th, right? That's the point of estimated quarterly taxes. And the fact is, there are guidelines called safe harbor rules, which help to sort of guide you and nudge you towards paying in the right amount. But there is no law that it's possible to pass under the US tax code or any tax code anywhere that could force you or even enable you to accurately predict the future, right? There's no law that can say, hey, Hannah Cole, I guarantee you will make this amount of income next year. It's simply not possible, right? We can't tell the future. This is a basic principle of life. And so you are making an estimate, and we know that things can change. Even when you've done the very best you could do, you might make more money than you expected, or something might happen and you might make less money than you expected. This happens, right? And so the tax code simply cannot be too punitive around estimated quarterly taxes, because the best we can do is get you close. We know we can't guarantee that your payments will be accurate. So we put estimate as the first word in the concept. And I really want you to lean into the fact that perfection is by no means expected when it comes to prepaying your taxes for the year, right? Perfection might exist somewhat more so in your tax return, your annual tax filing, which is the reconciliation part, right? That's where you take all the payments from last year and you actually tally up and you find the actual details, right? The tax return is the one time in taxes where you actually do know the real answer, right? Estimated quarterly taxes you do without knowing the full answer. And so perfection simply is not possible in this place. And any prepayment you make towards next year's tax bill is money that comes off next year's tax bill. You literally report all the estimates you've made throughout the year, and it comes dollar for dollar off next year's tax bill. So it's all good. If you pay $1 more than you did last year, right? If you pay $1 towards next year's taxes, that's that's $1 less that you pay next year in taxes, right? On your tax bill. So it's all good. It's all good, right? You want to get as close as you can to the real number. Technically, you want to overshoot it at least a little bit, because that will prevent penalties and interest. But even if you undershoot it, even if you owe a little bit in penalties and interest, it's not that bad. The punishment is not that bad. And I have a little confession here. I just did my taxes. And of course, like, I really make it a point to pay my quarterly taxes as accurately as I can, right? Like, that's kind of the business I'm in. But and I was very on top of my estimated quarterly taxes. And for my business, for Sunlight Tax, I prepaid pretty accurately, right? And I have a lot more predictability, to be fair, in my tax practice. I have a lot more predictability, right? There's a real rhythm, and my income does not fluctuate that wildly one year from the next. But I'll tell you what did happen to me this year. So at the end of the year, December 2023, I made a big sale of a bunch of artwork. This was super exciting. Obviously, this is a great thing, right? But in December, this sale that honestly, the beginning, like, nudges of this sale started 2 years ago. Like, I have not been holding my breath over this sale. It has taken so long, right? But I sort of got surprised suddenly. This bank that bought 17 pieces for me was like, hey, we're going to do it. And it went through. My gallery just was like, hey, it's happening. And I was completely surprised, right? Like, I had no predictability into this, right? It's not on my timeline. I had very little control over it. So at the end of December, I got a big check in my art practice, right? And there really was no way I could have predicted. I mean, I vaguely knew that at some point that money might come to me, but frankly, I didn't have a lot of control over it. And so it comes at the end of the year. And I had actually, at that point, when it was so late in the year, I actually had already made my last quarterly tax payment. And I just figured my art practice is so much smaller than Sunlight Tax. I just thought, well, I've overshot it on Sunlight Tax. It's probably going to be fine. So this year, as I was doing my taxes, reconciling last year's payments, I had a little tiny estimated quarterly tax penalty. I mean, when I say tiny, I mean tiny. It was $2. That does not stress me out. That is less than a cup of coffee. I mean, to me, a $2 penalty means I freaking nailed it, right? I overpaid enough that I had buffer to basically handle the taxes that showed up because of this very unexpected large sale of artwork. But even me, even a tax pro, I had a little tiny bit of a penalty. And the point is, $2 does not throw me off my game. Also, $2, I'm not going to jail over that. Like, it is completely fine. It is completely fine. There's nothing wrong. There's no ding because that happened, right? This is just the nature of making unpredictable income. Sometimes you just, right at the end of the year, get a big payment you were not expecting and it's not accounted for, right? It happens. Even to me. All right. Now, number four place where doing something imperfectly or even badly beats perfection is in running a business. So, I really grew up perfectionist and I had a lot of feedback from the world that encouraged that. So it's pretty hardwired in me. And yet running a business, honestly, being a parent is the same. A lot of times just done is better than perfect. And there are a lot of tasks in business where it is so much more important that you do it and do it quickly than noodle over it forever and make it perfect. Now, there are certain processes in businesses that are, what they call Six Sigma processes. If you are making a pacemaker for people, if you are building airplanes, or even honestly, less important, but still very important. If you're running a tax practice, you have to be extraordinarily attentive to the details there because you're handling taxpayer information, bank account numbers. You want your security systems to be super, super locked in. And I do, right? So there's certain areas where a lot of attention to detail is still very important. But even so, when I put out an Instagram post, do I need to really spend hours on that? No, absolutely not. Basically, tell somebody what you have, for sale at that moment or the valuable piece of information you want to bring to them. Get it out there and move on with your day, right? You don't want to be fussing into tiny, tiny details of everything in your business. So it's really, to me, it's there's just so much to do in a business, most especially in the early days, that it's just an important reminder to a mantra that I gave myself was aim for a B plus. So, I am someone who has always been a bit of a 4.0 student. I mean, not to find a point on it, but that is not a good attitude when it comes to running a business. Now, I want to get a 4.0 when it comes to setting up systems in the tax practice to make sure that client data is handled absolutely securely, to make sure that it's a smooth experience for my customers. But when it comes to graphics for my Instagram presence, yeah, good enough is good enough. B plus is absolutely fine, right? And the other thing is, even in places where I want things to be as perfect as they can be, they're not going to be, right? And so also revisiting and revising is a key process in any business where you do something, you get it out there, you take imperfect action, and then you revisit it and you refine it, right? So that over time, your business becomes better and better and smoother and more efficient with better operations and better systems and better service and better product, right? That's the nature of it. And I tell you that, close to a decade into running Sunlight Tax at this point, my systems are pretty refined. I feel pretty good about it. I'm still not perfect. Excellent, but not perfect. And I think that's great. I think that's great. And, I feel really, I know when I was starting Sunlight Tax, I looked to other businesses that had been going for years and I compare myself with them. And I feel bad for early me in that sense because you're not going to compete well with somebody who's been in business for many, many years and refined their processes. You may have things that you can do super well, and you will, right? But it takes some time, it takes some practice, and it takes some refinement to get to the place you ultimately want to be. If it's worth doing, it's still worth doing, right? So, one of the strategies, I'll give you one strategy I have used that I especially used in my early days to kind of handle the fact that I knew I couldn't offer a service that was perfect was that I tried to keep my scope really, really narrow, right? When I started Sunlight Tax in 2016, I specialized in artists, only artists, right? And I declared myself an expert on the Schedule C and on the issues specifically that affect artists the most. So losses, being seen as a hobby by the IRS, hobby loss rules. I read every single tax court case about artists proving their profit motive despite having losses. So I really developed a strong expertise in a single area, a very narrow area. And I tried to let go my guilt over the fact that I didn't know agricultural rules or I didn't know about complicated real estate swaps, right? I cannot know every nook and cranny of the enormous and growing US tax code, but I could stake my claim on this one specialized area and serve a population I adore with excellence. Now, over time, my capacity has grown quite a bit. My experience has grown quite a bit. I myself run a business that is not an art business, right? And so I have developed expertise that has come out in concentric circles outside of visual artists to a lot broader population. Now I realize that people who are nonprofit consultants, for example, often suffer from very similar identity and money mindset issues that artists do. The same goes for healers, wellness professionals, wellness practitioners and healers. You tend to treat your work almost more like a calling or an identity than just a business. And that is very similar to the way that artists behave and feel in their bones. And so I've gotten good at being of service to a broader community and learned so much about how much I love these additional communities. But I couldn't have started that way because I needed to stay focused. I needed to have an area that was small enough that I could truly control it and truly feel mastery of it. So that's just a piece of advice. If you're feeling overwhelmed in your business, I would say narrowing your scope is a great move. You can grow later, right? But be really good at what you deliver and deliver less, because excellence is what drives word of mouth and what makes people rave about you and tell their friends. And ultimately, there is no better way to grow than to just deliver something that is excellent. All right. So those are the 4 places where doing something imperfectly, maybe even badly, beats perfection. Now, I just wanted to tell you about one little thing because a lot of you have asked me for this. So I just ran my very last launch of my program, Money Bootcamp, for the season. If you missed it and you want to send me a message, feel free. That's totally fine. But I have closed the doors officially. And in the survey that I do at the end of every launch, I ask people to tell me why they did not join. And it's not meant to be pressure. It's really research for me. Like what's holding people back? Am I serving everyone? Is there a way that I'm not serving people that I could be? And so one of the things that keeps coming up in this survey is that people really like my tax and business setup information, but they're not quite ready for the financial investment of my larger program, Money Bootcamp. And they've asked for like maybe a smaller chunk. And so I created that. So if you are one of those people, if you have been feeling like you'd like to do something, you would love a class, you like my teaching style, you'd like to learn something, you're happy to, pay for a smaller course, but you're not feeling ready for a commitment of the larger, like paid in full lifetime access program, then I want to let you know that I've made one for you. It is a class on IRS proofing your business deductions to ensure that you get every single dollar. This class can be completed in just 1 hour, so it's just a very small chunk. It's for artists, creatives, healers, and other visionary self-employed small businesses. It's everything you need to know about your self-employed tax deductions. It's visual and clear. It's not dry and boring. And this just 1 hour course will help you handle all those tricky questions and unknowns when it comes to your business deductions. If you're worried you're not tracking things right, if you're bothered that you might be losing more money than you should, if you hate the way that tax pros talk to you when you try asking for help, this course is straight out of my more comprehensive program, Money Bootcamp. So Bootcamp members, you already have this. But this course comes straight out of Money Bootcamp, and it's a great starting point to IRS-proof your deductions. It helps you handle the tricky stuff like home office, mileage, business meals, per diem meals, depreciable equipment, things like that. There's also a little bonus I want to tell you about if you're interested in this course. The course is $97. It includes a video, a super robust reference outline, which you can print out if you want, or keep it online as a Google Doc. It also comes with my visual guide to tax deductions, all the versions. And it's, like I said, it's $97, and it's just 1 hour and it gets you everything. So the bonus is that if you do decide you want to enroll in my more comprehensive full program, Money Bootcamp, over the next 30 days after purchasing the deductions course, you'll receive a $97 discount using the coupon code that I provide within the course. So in other words, when you buy this deductions course, IRS-Proof your deductions, part of what you receive when you get into the course is a discount code that is exactly the same price you paid for this course. So in other words, you can kind of sample it, see if you like it without the larger commitment. But if you do decide you want to join Money Bootcamp, I essentially give you that money right back. So if you're interested in that, there's no pressure whatsoever. But if you are a person who's been wanting to try some of the deeper level work without the fuller commitment, you can go to sunlighttax.com/deductions. That's deductions plural, sunlighttax.com/deductions to get that 1 hour course about IRS proofing your business deductions and ensuring you get every dollar. All right. I hope that's helpful to you. Great to talk to all of you today, and go forth, do B+ work where it doesn't matter as much. Only get the A where it matters that you get the A. All right, everybody. Take care. Nice to be with you. Bye. Thank you for watching. If you like this video, be sure to like, leave a comment, and subscribe to my channel. I'm so grateful for that. This video is for education and entertainment only. Nothing in this episode should be taken as individual tax or financial advice. You can find all the tools, books, and links I reference at sunlighttax.com/podcast.